Hi, this is Mike Torsha, and welcome to Live Well and Thrive. I have a very special guest, Cam Higby.
Hi, guys. Nice to meet you.
Cam is a journalist, but he recently went undercover at UCLA, and he's going to give us some insight what was going on at the campus, not only with the students, but also the teachers. So, Cam, please.
Yeah, so I went to UCLA last week. I was there much of the week. I started the Thursday prior to last week, so 2 Thursdays ago. Then I took a quick trip to Georgia. So the Thursday was the first day that the camp was kind of set up. The walls were real short, made out of pallets. You could just step over them, but they did have kind of checkpoints. And then I left and I came back. I went Sunday, Monday, and Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And 2 of those days I went undercover. That was Sunday and Tuesday.
So when you say undercover, were you pretending to be a student or alumni? What were you?
I wore a keffiyeh. I pretended to be one of their people, the protest. So how it works is in order to get into the encampment. So I want to say this as well. When I came back on Sunday, the camp was much more built out. We're talking like 8 feet walls. They've absorbed 2 buildings. You cannot get inside this encampment unless you go through one of their 2 checkpoints that they have on either side of the camp. So one is behind Royce Hall and one is behind the library, and you have to go through one of those. And it's guarded by self-appointed guards within the encampment.
These are students.
Some. So I'd say inside the camp it's probably 50-50 students, not students, but they're protesters. So the guards are protesters, not
How did they
campus
get the
employees.
material to build these walls in them?
There's a construction site inside their encampment. So they stole the plywood from the construction site. They had some people bring plywood in. What's interesting, though, is while they have those 8-foot walls and the checkpoints that are guarded by their own guards inside, civilian guards, not campus security, they also have those sort of bike rack barricades directly in front of the wall, anywhere that's exposed. That's not, there's not a building there because they absorb
Kind of slow people down.
Yeah, so
Right.
they have those. These bike rack barricades are so close to the wall that they're literally touching the wall. And then about 5 feet in front of those bike rack barricades, you have another set of bike rack barricades. And in the space between those 2 barricades, that's where your campus security walks, and they guard the camp. They don't go in the camp. They're not allowed inside the camp, but they guard it from the outside and make sure that no, students, faculty, members of the public, counter protesters, they don't get to the camp. And then, so it's kind of like, so you've got what I just described here, the 8-foot wall and the barricades. And then you have Royce Hall here, and you have the library here, and then the front wall again, same deal. So that's basically how it goes. Anywhere where there's not a building blocking the camp, there are walls and campus security and internal security.
So when you're saying they set this up with security and all that, were there different divisions like pro-Palestine and pro-Israeli or Israel, or how was it broken up? I mean, or is it just everybody?
The camp is all pro-Palestine. There's no inside
Okay.
the encampment. There is no people who are pro-Israel are not allowed inside the camp. There are guards inside the camp if they even suspect slightly, the slightest inkling that you do not agree with them, that you support Israel at all, that you support the administration at all, that you help companies who help Israel, that you support any of the companies they don't like because they see them as supporting Israel. They will not let you get near the camp. They knew who I was. They know what I'm about. They remembered me from Thursday. So on Sunday, when I walked up to one of the checkpoints, I was like, "Hey guys, I'd like to get in." They talked to me for a second. They entertained me for a second, and then one of the ones who recognized me, beat it, get lost.
Because he knows who you are by social media.
No, yeah. And so they recognize me. They know I don't agree with them. Not allowed inside. I want to remind you, public property. So legally, they have no authority whatsoever.
Did they get violent with people because they try to cross?
I mean, they have to. How else are they going to keep people out? You know what I mean? It's
So
like,
how bad did it get? I mean, physically beating them?
I heard, so Tuesday was the riot. I heard earlier that day. I was there until probably noon on Tuesday, and then I came back at 7 for the riot. I heard somewhere after I left, like around 2 p.m. maybe, some girl got beat unconscious, and that's kind of what spurred the riot later that night. That's what I heard. I wasn't there. I didn't.
So was
witness
she
it.
pro-Palestine?
Pro-Israel?
Oh,
She
pro-Israel.
got beat by the the encampment people, who, by the way, leave the camp too. They'll leave the camp and harass people outside the camp, because they're not inside the camp. There were points where while I was undercover, wearing the keffiyeh, they thought I was one of them, where I literally heard people saying things like, yo, where all the Jews at, my N-word? You know what I mean? And they're not black people. They're Palestinians, self-identified as Palestinians, but clearly looking for Jewish people to harass on
So it was a
campus.
combination of students and non-students.
Yes.
That congregated there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is hearsay. I'm not saying this is what it is. I have no fact, but someone had shared with me that he had been told that George Soros could be behind these pro-Palestine people that are just going to these campuses to create this havoc, this horrible, this horrible behavior. Have you heard anything about that?
I've heard some people say things like that. Somebody's definitely funding it. I don't know who it is. All the money gets funneled through Students for Justice in Palestine, and other donations that go to their Venmos and stuff. I don't know who funnels money through.
But you
SJP.
actually know that they're receiving money. You don't know where, but they're receiving money.
They're receiving money from SJP.
So they're being paid. So they figure it's a job and it's a duty and so on, right?
I don't know if they're being personally paid, but I know that the materials inside are being funded by SJP. So that was actually a question that got me assaulted. So when I was undercover, so the first day that I was undercover on Sunday, I decided I want to get in, be very discreet, document everything inside. So the graffiti, lots of communist symbolism, wanted to get all that. And then I was in for 5 hours and I got out discreet, didn't blow my cover. Monday, I went back and I wanted to document anything that might have been new overnight. And then I thought that something that was more important possibly than getting the graffiti and the damage and all the things that's going on inside the camp is, what would they do if somebody who they didn't want inside the camp got inside the camp? I know they assault them at the gates. So what if somebody got in and was standing in the middle of the camp and they didn't want them there? So that person's me. So I went in. I had a coat on, leather jacket, GoPro underneath the leather jacket, zipped up, microphone stuck down my pants. And so I went to a quiet part of the camp. I unzipped my coat. My GoPro was actually in my pocket, but I had the chest mount. So I mounted the GoPro, threw the SD card in, put the battery in, turned it on, pulled my microphone out, put it up my sleeve, zipped my coat back up, walked to the middle of the camp, unzipped it, pulled the mic out and said, "Who's funding this?" And first, I think immediately their reaction was, "Oh, like this must be approved, because how did this guy get in here? They've got this so locked down." They were probably just like, "Yeah, I mean, this guy must be cool. Like, had to have let him in." So I'm like, "Who funded this?" And they're like, Students for Justice in Palestine and other donations. And so then I hear whispering behind me, "Who let that guy in? Who let that guy in?" You know what I mean? And so next thing I know, I'm completely surrounded, encircled. They have their arms locked, fully. I'm trapped. I can't move. Forward, backwards, full circle around me. That's false imprisonment, totally illegal.
So what did you do?
So I said, that's a violation of California penal law. You can't falsely imprison me. And so they formed a horseshoe shape around me and they did something else illegal. They pushed me until I was outside the camp. They said, "You can exit right now. We've made an opening for you to exit. You're free to go." And I said, "I don't want to go. It's public property." They're like, "You have to follow our community guidelines." I'm like, "I don't have to follow your community guidelines. It's public property. You have no authority to make rules here." And so they're like, "You can either move or we're going to move you." And I said, "Okay, well, you're going to have to move me then." And so for about 20 minutes, they forcefully moved me from the center of the camp to the front
Did you get
stairs
this
of
on
the quad.
video?
All of it. Body cam.
Oh man, I want to see that.
Yeah.
We can actually cut it into this interview as you're talking about it. We can splice that in for sure. So you mentioned something that got my attention. There's also communist groups in there? Or are they part of the pro-Palestine?
Yeah, they're part of it. Yeah. So they're all one uniform group inside there. They're all the same people. They're all the same. I would say there's probably different factions maybe of the same group, but they're all there for the same purpose. They're all there for the Palestine protest, the divest thing.
So did you see communist symbols?
Everywhere. It was the second most common symbolism inside the encampment. The first most common was obviously the Palestinian flag.
I mean, the Nazi symbols you saw?
I didn't see any Nazi stuff.
Just the communist.
There was a couple swastikas in there, but they weren't like supporting it. It was more so like calling Jews Nazis, ironically. So it wasn't like, we support
like
Nazis.
Beware, yeah.
Yeah. It's like these guys are Nazis, whatever. But the hammer and sickle telltale communist symbolism. It was the hammer and sickle was the second most common symbol inside of that encampment behind the Palestinian flag. It was everywhere. I took pictures of every single hammer and sickle I could find inside that camp. It was just everywhere. They call
So-
each other comrades.
If you were to give an assessment, how many was male, female, and how many was white and Hispanic, Afro-American?
I'd say, I don't know that I could speak exactly to the racial demographics. It's pretty mixed. There was definitely a lot of Black people. There was definitely, there was some Hispanic people in there and definitely a lot of white people.
Mhm.
Maybe a couple Arabs, but I mean, most of them were either Black or white.
Right.
I'd say age in terms of like normal student age and adult, clearly not a student age is going to be like 50-50. So it's pretty mixed bag in terms of like who's actually a student and who's not inside there.
So how about male, female?
Male, female, pretty mixed. I'd probably say around 50%.
So were there actually women that were beating people up?
Actually, the majority of people who assaulted me, I think, were probably women. Yeah. I mean,
unbelievable.
And I think that plays into their advantage too, right? Because if I go and say, "Oh, hey, I just got assaulted by a woman," who's going to care? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you got, when they were pushing me, what I told you, they formed that horseshoe shape around me. Probably like 30 people. Like it was a lot of people, and they're locked arms around me. And if they couldn't fit in that horseshoe shape around me, they'd get behind the other people and, put their hands on their shoulders and help push. So they'd do a 1, 2, 3 push. And then they'd all move forward straight through me. And I'm like, "You're assaulting me." And they're like, "We're not assaulting you. We're just walking forward." Yeah, while I'm standing here, that's assault.
So now where are the campus police and where's the LAPD? What was?
Nowhere to be seen. I think I saw the only time that I recall before the riot on Tuesday, which was the last day that I was there, the only instance where I saw a single UCPD officer that I can recall, other than after the camp got cleared when I went back and kind of looked at the aftermath there, the only time during the heat of the protest, the encampment, that I can remember seeing a single UCPD officer was, I'm trying to think, I think it was Tuesday. Somebody had gotten arrested on the scaffolding in the construction site. And I was trying to get a good angle, and I'd gone into a part. You remember how I told you there was those barricades?
Yeah.
I was in between those. I'd just walked around them. I guess I wasn't supposed to do that. And a UCPD officer came up and he's like, "You need to leave." And I was like, "Dude, it's like public campus. Like I'm a journalist. I'm documenting." And he picked me up by my back straps and he moved me. So that was the only time I saw one.
I understand. You're a journalist. You're not harming anybody. You're not throwing anything.
Yeah.
And he wants to pick you up, but he doesn't even go near those other.
I kind of get it, because it's like, my angle is basically, I'm a journalist at public campus. I'm allowed to be pretty much, except for if there's an emergency, I'm allowed to be anywhere I want to be on the campus. But, they could probably justify it as there's something going on inside the camp, and there's a cop in there, and it could be dangerous. And, maybe there's an emergency. They're zipping back and forth, need it cleared.
Your own livelihood. I get it.
Yeah.
That angle.
Well, I think more so that they could use those kind of places as an access point for themselves to like zip across in case somebody got hurt, they need it clear or whatever. So I get that, but I in that moment, I didn't really realize that was happening. And I don't think that place was actually where they would have done that anyway. I think it would have been around back the library. So I think he was also kind of being a jerk, but I mean, it's what it is.
Okay, we had students and non-students and barricades and being security, sort of say, or bouncers. What was the consensus with the faculty? Were the teachers in support of this pro-Palestine protest?
So on Thursday, I don't know the overwhelming support of the faculty, but I do know that on Thursday, the first day of the protest, when I got there, there was like a group of faculty with a big banner that said "Faculty supports the encampment" or something like that. They support divestment, or whatever their banner said, in some way signifying support to the encampment. They were right outside the encampment on the steps of.
But these were actually faculty people?
Yes. Yeah, they were faculty.
Saying they support.
Yeah, it was a good sized group of them. I'd say So, had to be somewhere from 15 to 30 of them. Somewhere in that range.
Teachers at the
Faculty, it could be, administrators, it could be professors, could be assistant professors, could be anybody. So I'm not sure. And I didn't see any faculty opposing, but I also wasn't there for the like big pro-Israel thing in front of the encampment. They had a protest on Sunday they had one, but I was like flying into LA, so I didn't get there until.
So was that when they arrested like 100 people? The
No,
cops came in?
when they arrested like 100 people on I want to say it was Wednesday night.
But were they pro-Palestine?
Those were they arrested people in the encampment, because there was Tuesday night there was that riot that lasted from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. The best way I can describe that is medieval battlefield. Just absolutely insane. People fighting.
Were there bats and bottles and rocks and?
Yeah, they were fighting with like makeshift weapons, like fashioned out of poles.
And they were beating.
Yeah, beating each other. Yeah, and so that happened, and the police came. CHP showed up at like 2:15 a.m. and they cleared the quad at like 3 a.m. They pushed out all the counter protesters. Did not go into the camp, and then the following day, they went in and they were there from like 7 p.m. until like 8 a.m. the next morning trying to get them out.
Well, don't you find it very suspicious that Mayor Bass talked about cleaning up LA and the homeless and really make sure it's safe, that she has not once gone out publicly on the news anywhere to even discuss anything about a plan or, hey, let's please be peaceful? She's like quiet.
Oh yeah, I was just seeing right through that one probably.
Right. I thought she would have been a great mayor. Of course I wanted Caruso, but I figured, hey, people voted her in. I got to give her support. But I got to tell you something. I really don't see big changes at all with anything. But the fact that she's gone silent, that's just bad, just doing nothing.
It's everyone too. Everyone in leadership has been pretty nonchalant about this whole thing, whether it's Karen Bass or it's, Newsom gave a little statement and said that he sent CHP that night of the riot, but he was mostly calling out the pro-Israel people. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. The administration at UCLA, Gene Block, the chancellor of UCLA, actually sent out an email to alumni the night of the riot saying they cleared the camp. And I have my friend, at this point, I'm still trying to like make up to my girlfriend. I've been gone all week. So I'm like, she's like, I'm out late at night at these protests. And she's like, so I'm like, okay, I might not go tonight because I just need to be home with my girlfriend. And my friend, who's also a journalist, we had been there, like I said, until noon that day. And then he went back at around 6. And I was like, what's the deal? Like, because in my mind, I'm like, the police are coming tonight. They're going to clear that camp. Because Gene Block already sent the email out saying they did it, which was a lie. And so I'm like, what's the deal? Did they clear the camp? Is it over? Because if the police are coming, I'm going. Like, I'm going to be there when they clear it.
Oh, you got to see that.
Got to see it. Yeah, got to document it. And he's like, dude, it looks exactly how he left it at noon today. And I was like, so he's lied? I'm like, okay, so it's got to be preemptive. Like, must be they're clearing it in like an hour. Got there. Nobody came. Riot starts. And I'm like, I just don't understand the purpose of that lie in the first place. Like, it wasn't like we're going to clear the camp. He sent this email to alumni and it said, we cleared the camp. Unless I misread it somehow and I'm like crazy, I'm almost certain that it said, we have cleared the camp and posted faculty inside of that quad. But it was just not true. And so my question is like, all this violence happened on Tuesday night. There was like 6 helicopters, news helicopters up in the sky. All you could hear was helicopters and people screaming. And I'm like, how are the police not here? It's all over the news. It's all the time.
There was no LAPT everywhere.
No, there was none. Not until after 2 a.m. How about this? Riot started at about 11 p.m. sharp on Tuesday night. I called 911 at like 11:30. I hit an emergency call button on campus. And I said, I don't know what your rules are on your podcast, but it goes 911 was your emergency. Hey, where the bleep are you? And we're on our way, sir. So I didn't even have to tell them where I was, what was going on. I didn't have to tell them. They already knew. They already knew exactly where I was. They already knew exactly what the situation was at 11:30. and they said they were on their way. Didn't show up till 2 a.m. After 2 a.m.
Someone must have told them to hold off.
Had to.
Had to, because they are always so fast at responding. I've done a lot for West LAPD. They had a gym in their basement. It was really run down. I went and put brand new equipment, put Wi-Fi, surround sound for them to play their music. And I got to know the guys. But whenever anybody make a call, there's some issue, whatever, they're there within minutes because they're always driving in the area. So there's no reason why they had to drive from a station because they're usually out patrolling. And they could be there minutes.
Yeah.
So someone told them stand down. Had to.
I mean, I get it's a riot and you need to, get your forces together and gear up and all that. But like 3 hours for something that violent, you'd think that you'd at least like post police officers there. Even if they weren't going to do anything, just like post them there. But they didn't. Like I said, they got there after 2 a.m. and they didn't do anything about it until after 3 a.m. They sat in a line, CHP and LAPD sat in a line at the head of the quad about, man, I don't know, at least 80 feet away from the fighting, probably.
So they
50 to 80 feet
So
away.
did they actually watch them fight for a while before they even...
For over an hour. Yeah, they watched them fight like with weapons.
And just let them fight.
Just let them bear mace everywhere.
Do you have pictures of this?
All of it, yeah.
Man, I want to see that. I want to put this on the show as you're talking about. This is crazy.
I have videos of the clashes happening up against the wall. And they're just standing there, like down the quad.
And you have the video of them throwing you out physically?
That was earlier in the day, but I have that as well, yeah.
Yeah, let's get some of that footage, man. This is crazy.
And
this is absolutely insane.
What's interesting is the counter-protesters, when the police showed up, they marched down. There's kind of like a driveway that leads up to where the quad is, a road. So they're marching down the road. And as soon as they get there, all the majority of the counter protesters pull back. There's probably like 300 of them. The majority of them pull back and they cross the police lines and they're USA, US, they're chanting and they're like, thank you, police officers. Now clear this camp. And they never did it. They just went in, they took out the remainder of the counter protesters. There was probably maybe 50 people still up against the wall fighting them. So
was anybody really seriously hurt?
I think so. Yeah, there was a lot of blood. I saw a lot of blood. People getting hit in the face and stuff. I carried a couple guys from the front of the wall there was sort of, so if you've seen pictures, there's the quad. It's a huge quad and it's kind of split in half, and half of it is the encampment. And I want to emphasize it's huge. Like it's huge inside the encampment. And that's just half the quad. The other half is just basically it was used as a protest thing for pro-Israel people on Sunday, and then it was basically just not used for anything, but they had a screen that they set up on Sunday which played October 7th footage on it 24/7 right in front of the camp for them to watch. So that little station, it's all barricaded. They got barricades from the school to put over it just so people aren't going to come screw with the equipment and stuff, and they have guards posted there. That little area got sort of transformed into like a medical station during the riot because there was not a single ambulance during the entire riot. There was one ambulance at like 11:15. Started at 11:15. One ambulance comes, takes somebody, peels out. We don't see another one for the rest of the night until 4 a.m. This thing lasted.
So they set up like a triage.
Yeah, it was like off-duty paramedics.
It's like being at war.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, I've got people calling me that I've met on different days, and they're like, hey, like, is there anything we need over there? Like, I'm grabbing my medical bag. They're treating people from both sides in the center of this whole thing.
So
it's just nuts.
At any point, did you feel like your life was in danger?
I mean, yeah, the whole night. I mean, it was a dangerous situation.
So how did your girlfriend feel about it? She think you're crazy? I mean, come on. She's like, what are you doing this for?
Yeah.
Right?
So how that night went is, I told her I was going. I left, like I said, at around 6 something p.m. Got there at 7, and I was like, I'll be back at 8. Don't worry. And next thing you know, it's 3 a.m. and she's texting me, I just woke up and you weren't in bed. Where are you? And I'm like, she's like, oh, I just turned on the news. What are you at the campus still? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, you text me every 30 minutes, tell me you're okay. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And so yeah, she thinks I'm a little crazy, I think. But I mean, these people were like I said, they had this construction site inside their camp, and I see KTLA and like a bunch of other outlets saying, "Oh, the counter protesters attacked them," which they did start it. To be fair, because they felt like students, faculty, and members of the public were being assaulted. Police weren't doing anything about it. This girl had just gotten assaulted earlier in the day, and they wanted to retaliate, so they started by tearing the fences down. The camp started making weapons. They started pulling weapons out, and the counter protesters, when they would jump the wall with the weapons and start attacking them, because they have that construction site, they were fashioning the weapons out of objects retrieved from the construction site, metal poles, tools.
So it was like
boards.
Braveheart, where they're
Yeah.
just clashing.
Yeah, yeah. And so when they would jump the wall and attack the counter protesters with the weapons, I mean, these guys, they're like little like femboys, right? So they hop the fence, they're scrawny, they're little. They would just steal the weapons from them. You know what I mean? So it's like there was several occasions where somebody's got like a pole fashioned into a spear,
Right.
and you know it's
Cops are doing anything about it.
Nope.
They just watch them beat each other.
Yep. And so, yeah. I mean, and these people, I mean, they would sit up on, you know, kind of, I don't know what, they had like platforms built inside up against the wall. I guess during the riot, they built these things so they could stand up high. They're like throwing spears in the crowd, like poles.
Poles in the crowd.
Poles, yeah.
Other human beings.
Yeah.
I got to tell you something. I am so disappointed in the mayor of Beverly Hills, Lester Freeman, and Mayor Bass, and all the politicians. No one has actually stepped up to say, guys, we got to stop. We need to be peaceful. No one's saying anything. And then people getting hurt, and you potentially could have got hurt. And when you're just trying to do something good, because we need this information, and this is information that they should utilize the police to understand that this is a significant danger. You're talking about creating spears and hitting people with pieces of wood. You know, you can get brain damage, you can get killed.
I'll tell you what, I was very, very, very surprised when I woke up the next day and nobody was dead. From what I saw, and I was up against the wall the whole night, documenting everything, I thought for sure that when I woke up the next day, somebody was going to die of blunt force trauma. Like they were going to go home with a serious head trauma, go to sleep and not wake up. I thought for sure there'd be like 5 instances of that, but luckily nobody died on either side.
Well, you know, on my show, I have, as my dear friend Noah has been sending out invitations to bring people like you to be a guest and talk about relevant things that are going on in our community and just in society in general. And I had been communicating with the mayor's office of Beverly Hills, Mayor Lester Freeman. And I was told by the person that does the planning for his schedule that he'd love to come on the show. And this was just about 2 weeks ago. And that they were just kind of working out his schedule. So sure enough, Noah writes a very elegant email explaining how important it is because we want to address what's going on at the UCLA campus and about campuses around the country, and that we really would love to hear your words of wisdom or what your suggestions would be. And immediately, they denied to come on. So all I want to say is, Mayor Lester Freeman, shame on you. You had a chance to come on the show and share at least that you care. And if you don't have anything to do right now as a plan, at least show that you actually give a shit and care about our community, our future generations. I live in Beverly Hills. I've worked in Beverly Hills for over 40 years. How dare you deny coming on my show because you just don't have the balls to come on camera and share. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to figure it out together. So shame on you. I got to tell you, Cam, I've been touched by you coming on and sharing this, and I want to be able to help and support whatever you do. And I want to air this as soon as possible. So when you can, send us the footage, because as you're describing this, I want to see this visually so people who are watching the show can see how violent it was, because sometimes they can't comprehend it. But it is like I said, that Mel Gibson movie, Braveheart. Sticks and stones and steel and whatever, and people like not caring about a human being's life. Yeah. It's just disgusting. Yeah. But I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's Mike Torsia signing off for Live Well and Thrive. And please subscribe. We need your support. Thank you.
absolute riot broke out. The barricades that I spoke about earlier were completely ripped away. A medic station was set up in the middle of the quad, and the best way that I can describe this situation was medieval battlefield. Very quickly, makeshift weapons were fashioned, primarily on the camp side. They had that construction site in there, and they were using things from the construction site to create weapons. Metal spears, sort of like pole arms, and they were chucking these spears into the crowd. They were throwing metal objects. I know at one point like an 8-pound set of vice grips was hurled over the wall at somebody. They were throwing water bottles full of urine. They were macing, pepper spraying, and bear spraying people. The counter protesters were throwing fireworks. They were also using bear spray and pepper spray. And
The LAPD are back there and doing nothing.